I was 10 years old when this happened. I live in quite a big house, which my parents had bought together back in the early 90s. It was great. The neighborhood was great and the people were amazing. My parents didn't think that anything could go wrong. I was always quite restless when I was young. I could never sleep, and would just lay in bed for hours and hours staring at the ceiling with strong hopes that I could finally fall asleep. Insomnia at a young age isn't very fun to deal with. Anyway, one particular night I sat up from my bed after laying there for a few hours and reached for a glass of water that was on my nightstand. I shared a room with my sister, who was less than 6 months old at the time. She didn't like to sleep alone, so I offered to share a room with her in hopes that it would help my parents. When I looked over to her crib, I saw a large shadow leaning over her. Its back was to me, and it seemed like quite a big man. "Dad?" I called out, wondering why he was awake when he had work early in the morning. The shadow turned around, and I didn't get a chance to see any details, seeing as the only light source in my room was a dim nightlight. He walked away without a word, and I remember shrugging it off and laying back down again. This went on for a few nights. A man, who I assumed was my father, came in and looked over my sister's crib, even going so far as to pick her up if she cried, and then walked out quietly once he noticed I was awake. One night, I remember finally being able to fall asleep, and feeling rough hands against my cheek as I managed to do so. I was too tired to open my eyes, but I really wish I had. My mum picked me up from school one day, and our usual routine was to go to the store and get some stuff for dinner, and then go straight home. That day though, my mum was a bit sick and wanted to just go back home. When she opened the door, at the top of the stairs was a large man. He had a bag of bread with him, and a pair of my mum's underwear. My mum, who was carrying my baby sister in her car seat, immediately froze. I didn't know what to do either. Without any warning, my mum yelled, "Who the fuck are you?" The man stopped walking and turned to notice us. He gave us a toothy grin and stared at us. I felt fear travel up and down my back. My mum told me to never talk to strangers. She never told me what to do if one was in the house. The man had a gun in his pocket, and when my mum noticed this, she let out a loud scream. She handed me my sister's car seat and pushed us behind her, pushing us outside the door. I heard the door slam, and I began to cry uncontrollably. I knew what guns did, and how intruders used them. So I rushed while holding my sister to my neighbor's house across the street and banged on the door as hard as I could. My sister started crying along with me, and after what seemed like forever, my neighbor opened the door. "What's wrong?" she yelled when she noticed the two of us. I didn't know how to explain what was going on. I just knew that there was a bad man in our home, and my mum was in there with him. 911 was all I managed to get out, to which my neighbor grabbed her phone and dialed. After I had calmed down enough, I talked with the dispatcher, and we had police heading our way. I can't remember exactly how I explained it to the lady on the phone. I just remember vividly saying that my mum was in trouble. It was our luck that we lived right next to the police station, and they showed up in no time. My mum opened the door when she heard the sirens, and looked ghostly white. I didn't know why, until a couple of years later, my mum told me that the man had gotten away. He escaped through the back door after pointing a gun at my mum's head. He heard the sirens too and bolted. The police did a thorough search of our home, including our attic, which we never used. They found tons of empty bread bags, chips, peanut butter, and a lot of candy. A couple of pairs of my mum's underwear were found as well, sticky. A few blankets were found in the corner, and they dusted for fingerprints. 4 years later, during my freshman year of high school, something else happened. My school is quite a ways from my house, and it takes about 30 minutes to walk home. With a shortcut through a field with a lot of trees, it only takes me about 20. I walked the shortcut alone because I'm the only one in my group of friends who lives in this particular area. A couple minutes into the walk, I felt chills up and down my back again, so I turned around and met eyes with someone I thought I would never see again. It was him. I didn't know what to do, so I just started running and screaming for help. Nobody else was in the field, so I ran as fast as I could to the fence that led into my neighborhood. It's a large fence, so I tossed my bag over while still screaming, and tried to climb it, but felt his hands grab the back of my jeans and throw me off the fence. "You're as beautiful as your mother," he said deeply, giving me the same toothy grin he did 4 years before. I continued to scream for help, but his hand covered my mouth. I heard more footsteps rushing towards us, and I prayed it wasn't his friends coming to help him. To my surprise, one of the school's football players rushed and tackled the man. His fist went flying into the man's face, and I cringed as I heard the crack of the man's nose. He didn't bother fighting back, so I took out my phone and called 911. This time, they got him. 2 years worth of therapy sessions, and I'm finally okay to talk about it. Any time I think back to either of those incidents, I think of how it could have easily been avoided, if only we had checked the attic. I was working for a condo building, letting air conditioning guys look at units within condos. I was just a key holder. One of the last units of the day was a condo. I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. I opened the door, and immediately a waft of foul smell hit me. Just some rotten eggs, right? I enter the unit with the air conditioning guys and see some moldy looking bread on the counter, and due to condensation, a sweaty looking cake on the stove. "It's pretty fucking rank in here," I say to the guys. I look into the bedroom and see an older black woman with kind of a bad blonde hair dye job, hunched over in bed in a bit of a yoga pose. Sort of sat up, but head at feet, legs crossed. I'm immediately embarrassed. "Whoa, sorry ma'am, I didn't know you were home." No movement. I take a step closer. "Ma'am?" "She's fucking dead, dude," one of the air conditioning guys says, as he hurries out of the unit. His only evidence is the smell, and my tone of voice when I said ma'am. I step a little closer. The woman's skin is bruised, and has moldy patches on it. This is not a yoga pose. This is a settling into bed pose. I later learned from the police that she was a young Caucasian blonde woman, not an older black woman. Last diary entry was 10 days prior. Pill bottles and a last will and testament were on the bedside cabinet. I can no longer eat wonton soup, which was the first thing I tried to eat 8 hours later. On top of that, I can no longer handle the smell of a dirty fridge, such as moldy items left by careless co-workers. I also no longer fantasize about how cool the zombie apocalypse would be. The smell alone. This is one of my not-so-wholesome adventures from the ghetto. It deals with attempted kidnapping and trafficking, or possibly even murder. Who the fuck knows? Not me, I'm still here. As can be inferred from the word ghetto, my neighborhood was pretty horrible crime rate-wise, with a strong divide between ethnic groups. I lived in Israel at the time, and seeing as I'm Russian, my friends were also Russian, and what friends they were. Ron, Andre, and Eli were my best friends in 5th grade. We were the coolest 10-year-olds ever. So cool that we had our own Zula. Zula is a Hebrew slang word describing a private place, usually built by you, where you and your buddies can come to chill and hang out. I guess the American equivalent to a Zula would be a treehouse. Ron, Andre, Eli, and I found the perfect place to settle down and claim as our own. The ruins of a roof of an old bunker next to a tree in the middle of a field on a hill. It was positioned on somewhat of a steep hill, and it looked like a concrete bunker in a sea of tall, yellow grass field. We travelled the neighbourhood in search of discarded items and furniture to bring back to our little Zula, and came back with a magnificent cum-stained couch, a rug, and old-school posters of naked ladies. Our Zula was officially complete, the most wholesome one in town. Andre hung his naked ladies on our tree, and was very proud of his work. Andre, Ron, and Eli had a tradition. They'd skip school every Wednesday to hang out at the Zula, so, naturally, I'd start skipping Wednesdays as well to join them. And for a while, it was great. We'd play cards, discuss 5th grade politics, and prank call our neighbours. Until one day, Andre just had to do a stupid. You see, when little horny Andre picked up those naked damsels from the street, he also picked up a business card. An escort service card. One Wednesday morning, Andre decided we just had to prank the poor hooker. Eli, whose role was to be the clique's official dumbass, instantly agreed it was a good idea. Ron and I, however, were a bit more skeptical of Andre's seemingly harmless ruse. But you know how well peer pressure works on 10-year-olds. Andre calls the number and puts it on speaker. It rang and rang until someone answered. A man who I can only imagine was the girl's pimp. The man told Andre he sounded like a big boy in an incredibly creepy way. And mind you, Andre did have somewhat of a deep voice in comparison to normal 10-year-olds. So when Andre, the beautiful idiot, decided to pretend to buy a hooker, the guy on the phone had no objections. Andre proceeded to give him the closest fucking address to our Zula, and an exact description of how it looks. As soon as the call ended, Ron flipped out at Andre and left. Eli and Andre were super pleased with their prank, and I just sat there on the cum-stained sofa, wondering what the fuck we just did, and is that hooker seriously going to arrive? Andre and Eli were sure that the man got their joke. He didn't. 10, 20, 30 minutes pass, and nothing, no hookers to be seen. We all laugh about our biggest achievement yet, and completely forget about the "what a big voice you have" man. I think it was an hour later, we saw a black van pull over the street next to our Zula's field, the address which Andre gave. Andre and Eli ignore my concerns regarding the inconspicuous van, and so I'm the only one watching it. It went up and down the street, as if it was trying to see if there's any way for it to drive into the field. Impossible, since it's kind of locked between 2 apartment complexes and a cliff. It then pulls over again at the original spot. At this point, you'd expect a woman to come out. But no. Oh no. 2 men get out of the van and start walking up the hill towards our field, towards us. I could feel myself screaming internally as I motioned my buddies to look. We all sort of freeze and have a little, oh my god, what have we done moment. One of the men yells, "Big boy, I need to ask you something." We practically leave a cloud of dust getting the fuck out of there. We ran up the grassy hill, which gets quite steep as you approach the peak, when Eli falls and scabs his knee. We didn't notice him falling because he didn't make a sound, and by the time we saw him, we were too far, and even more terrified as the men were approaching him and us fast. So we left him there, like the cowardly 10-year-olds we were, and just kept running. We reached another bunker area in the upper street. It is Israel. Bunkers and shelters are everywhere. We hid in one of those 4 concrete shelter buildings, designed like big old boxes. We gently closed the metal door, sat in the farthest, darkest corner, and waited. We could hear the men searching the other shelters, and at this point, we're pretty sure we're going to be found. The moment came, and the men opened our shelter's door. I remember his voice to this day. Cold, eerie, disturbing. "We just want to talk. We came all this way for you." We screamed our lungs out, and by sheer chance, a couple who were walking by with their dogs came to the area to investigate our cries. They scared away the men with threats of the police and their massive German shepherds. We were so fucking relieved. But then we remembered Eli. We quietly creeped down the road towards Arzula, but didn't see Eli anywhere. Andre was the only one of us who owned a cell phone, so calling him was impossible. We thought maybe he had managed to run back home, and so that was our next destination. I remember we looked around carefully for the van. It wasn't parked in our vicinity anymore, so we walked down to that street, on a route which connects to my street, and eventually to Eli's. We managed to get to my street, and at this point we were sure the van and the men were gone. We were wrong. They had circled the neighborhood. We saw them coming back behind us. We freaked out and ran up a long case of stairs. The van almost hit us and the stairs, breaking with a screeching tires sound, and one of the men jumped out of it and started galloping up the stairs, chasing us like a crazed baboon, yelling disturbing things at Andre. "You have such a pretty ass. It's gonna be mine." That was the least disturbing comment of them all. We weren't fast enough to outrun the man, and in the middle of the staircase, just as we were about to break left into a rocky terrain, he grabbed Andre. Andre was screaming hard now. I had never heard him scream like this. I was in tears. Then, in a moment of accidental courage, I picked up a rock and ran down towards the van. The man was so fucking close to shoving Andre in the back of that van when I proceeded to snipe his head with my trusty rock. He had at least made him let go of Andre, miraculously turning him into Speedy fucking Gonzales as he started to run away, still screaming his very soul out. I, on the other hand, was pretty much fucked. The man was so incredibly pissed. I never saw someone that angry in my life. I tried running away, but at this point it was futile. The man grabbed me by my hair and started dragging me towards the van. In what felt like hours being dragged to the van, I saw my older brothers running towards me with a metal pipe. They pried me out of the man's hands and proceeded to beat the living shit out of them. They were apparently attracted by Andre's ear-popping screams. They eventually let both of the men go. You have to understand, in our city and neighborhood, it takes the cops at least 30 minutes to arrive, and nobody really trusted the police. My brothers also feared that they might call someone up to come and get them. This entire live-action movie was done with me getting the arse-whipping of my life from my parents, my brothers getting commended, Andre getting psychological treatment, and Ron getting a pizza, right after he left us with our hooker-calling consequences. Good man. Oh, and Eli got a cool cast on his arm as well, which he broke as he fell down the cliff in an attempt to run away from our kidnappers. We later drew dicks on it, like real friends. We never actually found out who those men were. Our parents forced us to get that business card and give it to the police, but the police never called us back. Don't even know if they investigated it. Our friendship slowly died as Andre, Ron, and Eli succumbed to our neighborhood's nature and became small-time drug dealers and started hanging out with questionable characters. So, moral of the story? Don't ever go looking for hookers on shady business cards, not even to prank them. Oh, also, don't skip school. I'm a firefighter and EMT, so it's pretty normal to find a dead body, but one will always stay with me. There was this middle-aged guy who lived in his van out in a parking lot, somewhat out of town. He never bothered anybody, so the police just let him stay there. It was around the middle of July in Arizona, so about 105 to 110 degrees, and we got a call to go and check on him. Nobody had seen him for a while, and somebody had complained about a foul-smelling odor coming from his van. We all knew what we were going to find, but nothing could prepare us for what we actually came across. I opened the back door to his van, and a cloud of flies flew out so thick you couldn't see through it. I was immediately punched in the face by the stench of death, and when the flies cleared out, we finally got to look at what was there. The guy had been dead for at least 2 weeks, and his cats had survived by eating the fleshier parts of his body. I've seen my fair share of corpses, but something about a guy who's been in a van for 2 weeks in the Arizonan heat, with cats eating his body, just stays with you. Hi guys, Lazy here, and thank you very much for listening. Well, there's a big slice of nostalgia pie for you. Just a nice simple collection of 4 scary stories. Getting back in touch with my roots, as it were. I know a lot of you prefer these type of non-themed videos, and I can see where you're coming from. Personally, I like both styles, and I'll probably be making more of these unthemed videos in the future, since I haven't really made many since the old days, if you know what I mean. But anyway, having said that though, up next are some more yandere stories for all of you kinky bastards out there to enjoy. Ooh yes. Speaking of which, head on down south, locate that elusive like button, and smash the fudge out of it. What the fuck am I on about? Anyway, until the next one guys, you stay spooky. And remember, the best things happen in the dark. Ooh shit, here come the popo.